My name is John Moss. I joined Mott, Hay and Anderson in 1965 and stayed with them for 39 years.
And what was your role when working on London Bridge?
They built the two outside spans. That's when I came here to build the two inside spans, because it's four different spans all joined together. And so I was involved in that. And then the structure, the superstructure of pre-stressing the bridge.
So do you know why the old bridge was taken down, what the problems were with it?
The foundations, I think of one of the piers was tipping over up where it should be at one side and down on the other side. So, you know, losing some of its foundation would cause it to be, you know, in the end structurally unsafe. It never got to that situation. But of course, you know, it's nice to have a wider bridge, much wider for traffic now, as you can see the level of traffic on the bridge.
I am Michael Leamy and I designed the superstructure to the London Bridge, new London Bridge, and designed the structure that held up London bridges in Arizona.
And I'm Bernard Waterworth.
Yeah.
And my role was basically two things. I was involved in the design of the replica bridge in Havasu, and also looking after the stone shipments through Surrey docks, numbering the stones, shipping them off, and seeing them crated.
The stones had all come off the bridge, taken down to the quarry where they originally came from. The face of the stones from the bridge was cut off, and the rest was thrown back into the quarry.
I remember going down too, and they used the tungsten wire to cut slice the face of the stones. 4 inches and 7 inches.
That's correct, yes.
And they were to be attached onto a concrete structure in Lake Havasu.
Only about 90% of the bridges in Arizona.
Yes.
The rest in Cornwall.
The rest is in Cornwall.
What was the biggest challenge you found on site? Was there any problems, delays?
No, we had a wonderful contractor, John Molam, who were full of what I would call engineers and not managers. And I suppose the cleverest civil engineer I ever met in my whole career was the agent for Molam's, a guy called Bernard Gonsalves, but he was an absolute brilliant chap.
What do you think the main challenges that you faced on the project were?
The traffic.
Because
the traffic never stopped.
The whole time?
The whole time that the bridge was being built, which was 4 years. The bridge is in fact 4 bridges side by side, and they built one bridge beside the old bridge, put the traffic on that, took the traffic off the old bridge on one carriageway, and they then built another bridge on the other side of the existing bridge, then demolished the old bridge and built effectively 2 more bridges. And if you look at it, it is in 4 sections.
Yeah.
And then later they joined
They're
together?
all joined up, yes.
I mean, one of the key elements of that was the gantry,
Yes.
which was unique, really, to the way this bridge was constructed, because we had to maintain the traffic and yet somehow devise a way of bringing in the individual precast boxes which formed the 4 bridges that Mike has just said. So this gantry went the full length of the bridge.
Yes.
And it was designed to support all the units, as well as to remove the old bridge, the masonry for the old bridge, and be able to shift across the bridge.
Yes.
Wasn't it? So it was a very elaborate piece of engineering. I mean, it was a bridge design in itself, really.
Yes.
The challenges for that bridge were to build it around the old bridge without knocking the old bridge down and leaving, you know, the traffic unable to cross the river. But now, you know, the challenges are to build things within the environment that they exist in. where you had to keep a very, very important bridge, transportationally important for the whole of London. You couldn't have shut the bridge at all, and we never did.
You mentioned that you were involved in the deconstruction of the masonry to then take to Arizona. How did you go about that?
We got a camera mounted on a boat and photographed the face of the existing bridge, because on the new bridge for Arizona we had to know what the shape of the arches were, and we had Rennie's old drawings which showed them in detail. But of course, when you build an arch bridge, you build it on formwork, and finally you drop the formwork and the bridge goes down a bit. So we had to work out exactly the shape of the arches to get the old stonework to fit the new concrete bridge in Arizona.
The drawings that you're referring to, Mike, had to be strung together. They had a drawing which was 15 feet long.
Wow.
For the masons to actually work out
which stone
because
went where. Yeah.
The stones were, I mean, they were delivered and put in the desert, basically, and then people had to identify them and position them in the right place.
Was there any issues with the pre-stressing? Because that was quite a new thing.
Well, there were some worries, I think, about, you know, corrosion and thing with pre-stressing, and I understand now all the inspections have shown that because it was pre-stressed externally, the cables were all outside of the structure, not buried inside the structure of the segments. That, of course, everything is much more easy to inspect. As far as I know, there are no problems. Yeah.
What do you think had changed the most between the time you started your career and by the time you retired?
Well, computers. The use of computers and CAD drawings. Mm-hmm. This is how we used to do reinforced concrete design by hand, Indian ink. Nowadays, everything is done on a screen. If you look at site work, that too has changed. There wasn't the same concern in those days about health and safety problems. I mean, for example, the noise that piling hammers make. Nowadays, you wouldn't dream of putting people near a piling hammer without ear protectors and goggles and everything else. High-vis jackets, so none of this existed. Cloth caps.
That's all you need.
That's how it was.
Yeah.
Mike, how about you? What do you think is the thing you noticed the biggest change between the time you started your career and by the time you retired?
Well, I agree with Bernard about this now all done by computers. The other thing is a great deal more of research has been done on concrete and things of that sort, that we can now build bridges much better.
Thank you for coming today. It's really interesting to meet the people who are involved in such an amazing project.